What's going on, guys? It's Swimzyy here, and welcome back to a brand new Warframe video. Now in this video we are going to be looking at the Incarnon Atomos. Now this secondary weapon is pretty unique. It shoots out a beam of heat energy and it can latch onto multiple enemies. Now the Incarnon form is pretty decent, however I feel like this weapon is still underpowered and it could be better. If you did enjoy this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, as everything helps me out. You guys have done so well recently on the recent videos, so thank you very much. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers before the end of the year, so please help me out if you do enjoy the content. Let me know what I can improve on. With that out of the way, let's get into the build. Alright, so this is the Atomos, and you can put the Incarnon Genesis on the Atomos. Unfortunately, there is no Atomos Wraith, Prisma Atomos or Atomos Prime, so the standard Atomos will have to do for now. Hopefully they implement a Prime or another variant. So I'm going to show you two builds today. The first build is the endgame setup, which I will be showing first but testing last, just so there's no confusion. So in this setup we have a Deep Freeze for 90% cold, Galvanized Diffusion plus 110 multi-shot, on kill plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacks up to 4 times. Then we have Lethal Torrent, plus 60% fire rate, plus 60% multi-shot, Pistol Pestilence, plus 60% Toxin, plus 60% status chance, Primed Heated Charge for that base 150% heat, Primed Pistol Gambit for that 187% critical chance, Primed Fulmination, improves the blast radius of weapons with radial attacks. This Incarnon form has radial attacks. That is why I've put it on this build. However, you don't really need it if you don't really want to. And then finally we have Prime Target Cracker, plus 100% critical damage. And we have Cascadia Flare, rank 5 for the Arcane. On heat status effect, plus 12 damage for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 480. So we are going to get a ton of damage for using heat. On the left hand side we have the critical chance at 97.6%. Critical multiplier at 3.4 times. Status 33.6%, doing heat and viral for 572 total damage. Moving on to the standard, new player friendly setup, we have Augur Pact, plus 90% damage, Hornet Strike, plus 220% damage, Creeping Bullseye, plus 200% critical chance, negative 20% fire rate, Scorch for that base heat and status chance, Heated Charge for the 90% heat, Lethal Torrent for fire rate and multi-shot, Target Cracker for critical damage, and Barrel Diffusion for 120 multi-shot. We are also using the same Arcane. Now I'm going to use this Arcane to boost its damage, but if you do not have this Arcane, no need to worry about it. This isn't needed for the build, I just decided to throw it on. Over on the left hand side we have Critical Chance at 102%, Critical Multiplier 2.7 times, Status 33.6%, dealing only heat for 1,521 total damage. With that out of the way, let's head into the Zaraman. Alright, so we are at Cavallero, and he evolves your Incarnon weapons. Let's go to the Atomos. Now, this Atomos build has 5 Former on it, so it is a very Former heavy build, but this weapon is actually pretty decent. I don't think it's good enough to compete for top spot, but it is still a good alternative if you want to switch up your playstyle. Now, as always with Evolution 1, play a solo mission with this weapon equipped, and you will gain the Incarnon form. Moving on to Evolution 2, get 100 kills with the Incarnon form and you unlock 2 choices. You could choose between Paladin Virtue, increases damage by 24, with energy max over 700, increases critical damage multiplier by 1 times. Or you can choose Hoplite Virtue, increase damage by 24, on shield break, increase damage by 30 for 8 seconds. Moving on to Evolution 3, you have 3 choices. Moonrise Velocity, plus 7 range. Mercenary Chamber, increases ammo capacity to 560. Or Resonant Restore, on reload from empty, increase magazine capacity by 5, stacks up to 7 times. All of these choices are actually pretty good, but because this is a beam weapon for its standard fire rate, I chose Moonrise Velocity for that increase in range. And finally, Evolution 4, you have 3 choices once again. You have Elemental Balance, increases status chance by 20%. Commodore's Fortune, increases critical chance by 19%. or Survivor's Edge increases critical chance and status chance by 10% each. These are all pretty decent. I would like to run a crit build, that is why I chose Commodore's Fortune, but if you want to play status, choose Elemental Balance, and if you want to mix, Survivor's Edge is the choice for you. With that out of the way, let's head over to the Simulacrum. Alrighty, so we are in the Simulacrum, and I'm going to be using Mirage today for these tests. Now, the first round of tests, I'm going to run just the weapon itself with no abilities, and then the next test I will use all of the abilities just so you can see the maximum and minimum damage output. Now, this is the build we'll be testing first. It is the new player friendly build, and it's pretty standard. Don't expect this build to carry you through Steel Path. Obviously, Cascadia Flare is going to help us a lot, but this build is for the new player friendly. We're going to be versing 20 Steel Path Corrupted Bombard Eximus, level 165, as always. And let me know down below if you want me to change the enemy type I verse. This is the standard Atomos form. As you can see, the heat is shredding that overshield, and once the heat stacks up, we'll be doing a lot more damage. Got that Incarnon form all ready to go. And these enemies are pretty tough, so the standard build won't actually do very well against them. But I thought I might as well just show it off anyway. Now, if you are doing lower Steel Path, or if you're doing standard star chart, then this weapon will work absolutely wonders, mainly in the standard star chart. I know not everyone plays Steel Path, so this build will definitely carry you through standard. Ammo is a big problem with this weapon. Because it is a beam weapon, it is actually very easy to run out of ammo. So that was why I would recommend, as soon as you get your Incarnon bar all fully charged up, switch to the Incarnon form, and you'll definitely be doing a lot more damage. Finally getting rid of these guys. Alright. So activating the Incarnon charge, this becomes a radius-based weapon, as you can see. And the radius is alright. I'm not going to say it's the best Incarnon form, because it definitely isn't. But it is similar to the Gorgon, which I actually made a video on recently, if you would like to go check that out. But yeah, the Incarnon form isn't actually too bad. It's kind of a mix between the Gorgon and the Gamma Core, which I will have a video on very shortly. But yeah, overall, this weapon is pretty decent. It's not going to do well, as I said, against the higher Steel Path enemy, especially the Eximus, because they are tanky. But nonetheless, it is still doing pretty decent damage against Eximus. Now, the endgame setup will do a lot more damage compared to this setup, so just keep that in mind. But this build with Mirage's abilities are actually pretty cracked. I mean, every build is good with Mirage's abilities. So. But the heat is slowly outpacing these enemies, which is very good to see. We've got 20 more rounds. Oh god. Quickly kill these enemies. There we go. I've never had to get so much ammo in one recording before. Alright, so I'm going to start this again, and I've just used all of Mirage's abilities, and have a look at the damage now. Now we are getting somewhere. Nice yellow crits. A few oranges in there. But yeah, if you really want to go status based with this weapon, you can. It is a pretty good weapon overall for crit or status. I just prefer crit builds myself. But as you can see, it does a ton of damage. Got a nice wide radius. Next, we're going to move on to the endgame setup. The setup you've all been waiting for. And it's pretty decent. I really wish I had a Riven for this weapon. But it is what it is. This weapon should do a lot of damage either way. We're going to spawn these guys again. Alright, so this is the standard fire rate. As you can see, it's dealing a lot more damage. That heat is now cooking them alive. The damage is pretty good with this endgame setup. Is this weapon going to be the best? No, I don't think so. Is this weapon pretty powerful? Yes. With headshots, definitely. As you can see, that damage there. But yeah, overall this is a fun weapon to use, and I actually like this weapon a lot. Now keep in mind with knockback, I don't know why they still have it in the game, but there is knockback, so be careful with that. If you don't like knockback, run Prime Sure-Footed on your Warframes. But overall, this weapon is pretty fun to use. It's got a pretty cool Incarnon gimmick. And I actually prefer beam weapons. They are pretty fun to use because they latch onto multiple enemies. So the new core could get outshined by this weapon. Not gonna lie. Now I'm gonna spawn them once more, use all of Mirage's abilities, and let's see how much damage we can do. That's crazy. Look at that. It's melting them. Literally melting them. That is amazing. I didn't even get a whole Incarnon charge. Here's the Incarnon form. 3 shots. So yeah, galvanized mods are the way to go with this weapon. Now I'm going to show you how this weapon performs in a real Steel Path survival. So I will see you guys there. Alright, so we are on Mott in the Void, level 140 to 145 Steel Path enemies. And just a heads up with this weapon, how I would play with it is using the beam until I have the Incarnon charge fully built up. Because that way you're saving a lot more ammo, and you can actually use this weapon for a lot longer than just using the standard fire. But as you can see, the weapon is just completely melting these enemies. Look at that. Oh, just completed something for Nightwave. But yeah, this weapon is pretty decent. Obviously, if you're going to come up against a high-level Steel Path enemy, then this weapon starts to slow down a bit. But for now, it is clearing rooms. Look at that. They do not stand a chance. And it's so satisfying seeing all those life support modules spawn after killing the enemies. Actually really satisfying. Keep in mind on your ammo count. Oh, look at that. I really don't have to do anything. I just need to walk forward and hold the trigger. That is way too good. But yeah, overall guys, I would rank this weapon at a solid A tier. I feel like there's still room for improvement. If DE wanted to buff this Incarnon form, then they certainly could. I don't think it's going to hurt the game that much. But let me know down below your thoughts on this weapon. Should it be buffed? Is it good while it is, or should it be nerfed? I'm not going to say it should be nerfed because it is pretty underpowered, but it is still a pretty fun weapon to use, and I feel like it deserves more love. Anyway guys, that has been the video. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, as I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you could, please help me out. Let me know if there's anything I should work on, anything I should improve on. And it's been Swim, guys. Later.